Welcome to Beyond the Physical, a podcast that uncovers the secrets to tapping into the world beyond form to thrive in life and business. I'm your host, Sitara Fe, a world-renowned psychic medium, quantum business coach, and your guide on this journey beyond the physical. Each episode will dive into spiritual insights, intuitive wisdom, and practical strategies to help you discover your personal greatness. Please feel free to find me on Instagram and YouTube at sitara.speaks for daily connection. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Before we proceed with today's episode, please note that this was originally recorded as an Instagram Live, and you'll notice some instances where I encourage some interaction. If you find yourself wanting to do so or to catch us live, please feel free to dial in by commenting on any of my posts on Instagram, and I'll be happy to send you a DM. Hi angels, I just wanted to drop in with you today and share a little bit about my Burning Man experience, what we have coming up with our entity clearing masterclass, how all of that correlates. There's a lot to say about all of that. And not to mention, Pluto just went retrograde into Capricorn for its last and final time. So we are going to have a lot of things shaking up through September, as well as we are stepping into a new moon in Virgo. So we've got a lot of action going on here. And so I just wanted to tap in with you all to see what you're needing, what questions you have, and yeah, to share in my experience here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome. See some new faces, new names. While you're hopping on here, go ahead and let me know where you are tuning in from. Yeah, so funny about Burning Man. I actually never post about Burning Man. This year was my 10th year. My first year was in 2010. I went about a couple months after I turned 21. Burning Man completely changed my life. It absolutely completely changed my life. At that point of my life, 21, I had the whole American Dream programming. The American Dream that says, if I can't, or you go to school, you get the husband, you get the house, you get the car, you make the babies, you do it all over again for the next generation. My first year on the playa, it was also the first time I did LSD. It completely broke down any paradigm that I ever had in that way. It taught me for the first time, my first exposure, that there are 8 billion different ways to live in this world, and not a single one of them is right, and not a single one of them is wrong, as long as you're creating no harm. Right? That's my rule here. No harm. Do what you will, to each their own. Live and let live, as long as there is no harm. So with that being said, yeah, Burning Man change. How many burners are here? If you've been to Burning Man, go ahead and let's just put the Burning Man symbol in the chat here. This year for me was very short and sweet. I went for 3 days, went with a friend, got a good night's sleep every night, definitely went out, had fun dancing and all of that. But, you know, I don't drink anymore. I don't party nearly as much. I am an advocate for the responsible use of psychedelics. I have been for years. I've spoken about it on stages. I've spoken about it in my classes. I do believe that there is a responsible way to explore these medicinal substances in a way that opens our consciousness, our heart, our awareness. Am I also aware that there is a way even to use ayahuasca as a crutch? Yes, very much so. And so again, I have a lot to say on all of that. I did get to see Rick Doblin speak, and he's the man who's pioneering the legalization of these psychedelic substances, specifically for PTSD with vets and all sorts of other uses, you know, family members that are dying of cancer, and you know, family members that aren't able to say what they need to say. MDMA is something that's really, really helpful in opening communication and opening our hearts. Now, what I will say, to be in that environment, in a festival environment, not just Burning Man, but a festival environment, when you're taking these psychedelics and there's a lot of drinking that's also happening simultaneously, that to me is not responsible use and not responsible use in setting. So for me, it has a lot more to do with the use of alcohol that will, one, absolutely limit the psychedelic experience if what you're intending is to open yourself up to an extraordinary amount of healing, as well as what we know with alcohol is that it opens us up to spirit connections, and those spirit connections are not always working in our favor, especially in an environment where it's kind of like a trans-medium playground. And what I mean by trans-medium playground is that there are an extraordinary amount of entities, of beings that are there in a playground of some low-level frequencies, right? I mean, let's just call it what it is. In these festival environments, there's a lot of unconscious partying. There's a lot of not really holding the reverence and respect for the land. There's not really holding a lot of reverence and respect to each individual. There's so much to say about all of that, and I don't really necessarily feel that we need to go into that right now. But ultimately, there's a lot that goes on in the realm of psychedelics that can be extraordinarily healing and extraordinarily beneficial to expanding a person's consciousness. So with that being said, who here, and you can just, let's put an emoji in the chat, who here is an advocate of psychedelic, responsible use of psychedelics? Allowing yourself to journey and adventure in these multidimensional realms. Now, the other thing that I will say to this is that it is not necessary. It is not always necessary. You don't need psychedelics. In fact, in the last 2 years, I have been, I would say longer than 2 years, to be honest, keenly aware that mushrooms have actually been lowering my frequency. So, which is kind of an exciting thing. And it's also a little bit of a sad thing too. But, I really do believe that I've gotten to a point in the organization of my own consciousness and my own expansion that, you know how like mushrooms or psychedelics, they open up a sense of clarity. It's like ahas, perspectives of things that you weren't seeing. Well, in the last several years, I haven't actually had any epiphanies or ahas using them. I've more or less had the awareness that I don't need them. And if anything, it's actually like lowering my frequency and jumbling my channels. Which is a bit of a bummer because that I don't really partake in any other substances. I don't partake in any other substances. So when it comes to that, it was like, oh, well, that was my last kind of like hoorah. And I do from time to time, just, you know, really to have fun and enjoy the human experience and laugh a little bit more. But ultimately there's, and this is what I want to say about the reliance, the personal growth reliance that I've seen too much in the psychedelic field. And even in, have I tried or do I have an intention before doing mushrooms? Yes, very much so. It's not my first rodeo. Not my first rodeo one bit. But ultimately, what I do want to share here as well is that, again, you do not need the substances. You do not need the psychedelics to open the gateways and open these bridges. In fact, when I was in Mount Shasta, it was very, very clear to me that that was actually like energetically what I was intuiting from the mountain is that it's actually like not a good thing. It's actually kind of more frowned upon. And especially with these DMT pens and things that are out there and very easily accessible, it's that there's a lot of people that get their hands on these and don't actually know what they're doing to the multidimensional grid that we are sharing with some of our guardians and guides and some of these other beings. So it's really, really important to take note and to be very keenly aware that when you are using these substances, not only are you, opening yourself, you're also opening the field around you. And that's why, in the use of partaking in these at music festivals, or where there's a lot of mixed energies, where there's a lot of unpredictable energies, where there's a lot of things that are factors that are way outside of your control, it's kind of ironic, right? Because that's a place where a lot of people feel safe to take these substances. And simultaneously, if there isn't the awareness of protection, if there isn't the awareness of absolute pure sovereignty in the body, absolute pure autonomy in the body, and your body be in connection, there's a lot of different ways in which we can leave ourselves open and susceptible. So do you open portals, so to speak, when doing the are you asking me personally? Me personally, no. I do not use substances to open portals. And to be honest, I don't resonate with the word portal at all. I don't think that it's necessary. I don't think we as humans need to be going around opening portals at all. I really don't. I think what I believe, again, take it with a grain of salt, but this is how I choose to function and move through the world, and it's gotten me quite far. I really believe that in order for us, so I went to Telos. I've been in Telos. I didn't know that Telos existed. I was not trying to get into Telos. And what ended up happening when I was there, I actually have a podcast about it. You've probably heard me talk about it, but I have a podcast that's on my podcast called Beyond the Physical on Spotify that's called Visiting Telos. You can find it there. And there was a very powerful connection that I had walking into Telos. Zero substances. In fact, zero substances for quite a long time. The one thing that I do hold on to is caffeine. Caffeine is my drug of choice. It's what keeps me up dancing super late and all these other things. But ultimately, I went into Telos. Again, I didn't know that Telos was a thing. I didn't know that this was a fifth dimensional city that was in Mount Shasta. Granted, this was not the first fifth dimensional city I had been in or that I had visited. It was just simply very unexpected. I was walking into a cave. I was walking into Pluto's cave. And when I went there, I became very aware also in my integrations of how I was able to go. Because I did not, because I did not know that Telos existed, I was not looking for it. Well, then when I started doing my research afterwards, I started to find out that there are a lot of people that have spent years of their lives trying to get into Telos. So then naturally my question was, how was I able to do that? And these other people that have been looking for it, not able to. The conclusion that I got to within my own inner world and my own inner realms was that some level one, my consciousness was capable of being able to handle and hold that frequency, to be able to mentally and cognitively be able to comprehend what happened without it like short-circuiting my existence and my experience. One is because I'm very tuned into star families. I'm very tuned into my soul origin. I'm very tuned into Andromedan beings. I'm very tuned into multi-dimensional fields of light in so many different ways. So my consciousness, my mind was able to handle that, right? So like, let's say you take a person who's a skeptic and they're like, I don't believe in anything other than the 3D, what I can see, hear, taste, hear, and touch. And that's it. Well, if they all of a sudden walk into a 5D city and have their mind completely blown open, their capacity to be able to hold that without creating like a psychiatric break it's a little bit more challenging. So that's why this evolution of the expansion of consciousness happens step by step by step. Our human mind has to have time to integrate some of the visions that we've seen, to be able to comprehend them, to be able to embody them, and then to be able to know with absolute certainty that what we've experienced is what we've experienced, and that's true, right? Are you guys following me here on this one? Now, the other piece of this with the Telos experience, and why I believe I was able to go in there and have a very, very powerful, very beautiful experience, was that I do believe that my soul has been there. So on a certain level, it's like I had the key code. If you think of like a magnetic key code, right, sort of thing, I believe that we have those within us. I don't believe that psychedelics opens those. I absolutely don't. And that being said, I have done my fair share of psychedelic journeys. I have done my fair share of Bufo. I've done ayahuasca twice. I learned it was not my medicine. I definitely had some addictions in my early 20s, trying to process the sexual assault experiences that I had, open wounding. Definitely have been there in my addictions of self-medicating for sure with Molly. And again, I've done, it's not my first rodeo. I like to push the envelope. I've been a very sensitive being my entire life. And so for me, when I found the opportunity to start drinking at a very young age, it numbed the pain that I had. And so I turned to that for many, many years. And it was in my exploration of kind of being out of control in festivals and out of control in this like party circuit, where the psychedelics were actually what started to hold a frame of reference for me to see what I was doing for myself and to see what I was doing to myself and to see how I was self-harming and self-medicating, because I was not getting that in the support of my family where a lot of these things happen. I do not smoke weed. I have not smoked weed since I was about 21. I did used to smoke a lot through high school, again, numbing just the experience of where I was living and certain things that were going on in my world and life. In my experience of leading people through the development of activating their psychic abilities, what I have seen is that weed is actually one of the biggest limiters. And the interesting thing about weed is that even those who are like, oh, I only smoke at night, you are cutting yourself off from a third of your life experience of dreaming, of processing, of integrating, of having your conscious mind communicating to your subconscious mind. In my experience of teaching, that I've been a teacher in this world since 2016. And what I have noticed is that my clients that smoke weed, and especially ones that smoke weed consistently, they do not grow. They're not evolving. They may like a little bit, but it's like in one ear out the other, or it doesn't even go in. It's like, it creates such an intense fog. And so what's really interesting about this fog is that it's really difficult to see when you're in it. It's not difficult to see when you're out of it. When you're on the other side and you're like, oh, what's happening with that? Like you can tell very clearly, okay, that's what's happening. And I have so many people that have so many justifications for smoking weed. And I've had this conversation. I used to grow weed. I used to be in the weed industry. I used to ship it. I used to do all sorts of stuff with it. Again, this is not my first rodeo. I'm just telling you what I've seen as a teacher, that it shuts down clairvoyance and it shuts down your connection to your dream state. Those are the two biggest ones. Not to mention the distortions that it causes psychologically. I do know that in some ways, cannabis is a very strong medicine. I do like the intelligence of the plants when I have been around them. I just, for me, myself, and for my clients, I highly recommend to not. If you want to grow past this point, this is why I don't drink, right? I realized at my point in my journey, and it's why I don't smoke weed. Like I said, I used to smoke a lot of weed. I don't anymore. I stopped when I was 21. This was like 15 years ago. But I don't drink either, because eventually you get to a point where you're evolving, you're growing, you're evolving, you're growing. And then there's a frequency that is keeping you limited. Weed is not going to get you there. Drinking alcohol is not going to get you there. Pharmaceuticals, not going to get you there. What's the other one? Oh, cocaine, not going to get you there. Like in any way, shape, or form. There's just certain substances that are not going to get you to where, if what your goal is to develop your psychic abilities and have a very clear sense of self, activate your soul memories, remember the truth of your divinity, remember the truth of why you came here, activate your soul purpose. These things are just simply not going to help you get there. I'm not making the rules here. What do I recommend? I recommend sobriety. I recommend sobriety 1,000 times over. Now, am I saying that I'm an absolute saint in that? No, I do like to microdose mushrooms. I do like to have fun with friends. I do like to dance. I do like to, play a little bit. But what will get you there, what will get you there is embodiment. It's focusing on clearing the hardened edges that you have within your own body that is holding on to judgment, self-judgment, because all judgment can be rooted back to self. So self-judgment, self-acceptance, radical self-honesty. Radical self-honesty. Why are you smoking weed? Why are you choosing to smoke weed? What is the weed numbing? What are you choosing to not feel? Face that, and you will literally unlock an absolute Pandora's box of how you're going to set yourself free from justifying that you need to have that as a part of your life experience. Because addiction can hide itself under many, many, many different masks. It really can. It's repatterning. Meditation, groundedness. I have a lot to say about being prescribed medications for ADHD. I have a friend who has had a lot of extreme battles with speed because he was prescribed Ritalin when he was 12 years old. The way that it programs our chemistry in a way that doesn't serve without asking questions. How much time are you spending outside? How deeply connected are you to your soul? Have you opened your pathways of divine remembrance? These doctors aren't having these conversations with you. I know they're not. Because they're not having them with themselves. So what I suggest, honest and truly, is to face the discomfort that's going on. Part of what I do believe ADHD is one, it's addiction to our these stupid things and this platform that we're on right now. The scrolling, the consumption of so much energy so quickly. I believe that it fragments our brain chemistry and our ability to think logically and to think linearly and to critically think for ourselves. I do think it messes up our own brain patterns. Nature, time in nature, silent time in nature, calm time in nature. Let Gaia speak to you. Open and it comes through stillness. When I say that stillness and facing your stuff, most people are nah, I'd rather smoke weed. Nah, I'd rather take the prescription. Nah, okay, that's fine. Then that's your choice. That's how it goes down, right? I'm not making the rules. But it is, if you want to get from point A to point B and you're not willing to do the things that are in the way from you getting there, then that's your choice. So it's allowing yourself, one, to realize and recognize that there's a deeper yearning within your own heart and within your own soul. I had a friend that he would smoke weed as he was doing the dishes at a school, an elementary school, where, he was doing all the dishes for lunch and he would smoke weed doing that. And he's like, well, I don't want to be doing this. And, it just makes it more tolerable. Well, that's kind of my point, is that the weed is killing your ambition to make changes. The weed is killing your ambition to go, okay, how can I think myself critically out of this? How can I see that there's another option? There's always option. We always have choice. We live in a day and age where you can literally pick up your phone and design a freaking notebook on Canva and start figuring out how to sell that. And people are making $1,000 a month, if not more, doing that. The amount of availability we have to education and resources, if money is the, whatever, let's say it's a motivator, let's just use money in this example. We have so much access to the information. What we don't have is the drive and the focus. So we have to clear our own excuses. We have to get out of our own way. Your soul came here with a mission that is so big. Like, you're here with me right now hearing this message because you have something really important to do in this world. You wouldn't be here listening to me right now if you didn't, right? There's a divine synchronicity that's happening. There's a divine meeting point that's happening. There's a message that I'm sharing with you, right? That's here. Hopefully we're all sober, being able to connect into what it is that's turning that evolution inside of your own heart. And that evolution inside of your own heart, I was talking to my dad today because he gets really into like watching shows on Gaia and stuff. And so he was talking to me about stargates. And he's like, what do you know about these stargates, this, that, and the other? I have had experiences on Andromeda. I have had connections to Andromedan beings. As far as I know, this is a 12th dimensional consciousness. This is a 12th dimensional frequency. Now, in some of those moments, it was like blipping because my awareness, my consciousness had to like acclimate to that, right? So, and sometimes it was like glimpses. Sometimes it would be an angel coming to me. Sometimes it would like show up in different ways, but it would happen over the course of 6 months so that I got more comfortable stepping into it, right? Well, there's something that's really powerful about that. As I mentioned, it's the key code that is within your own heart. You are more powerful than ayahuasca. You are more powerful than weed. You are more powerful than the ADHD that you may think that you have. You have the medicine that you need to reconcile anything that's going on. So when we talk about stargates, when we're talking about dimensional travel, when we're talking about time travel, when we're talking about space and time do not exist only in a linear form, we go beyond that. It is happening through the consciousness of your heart. The consciousness of your heart is so much more powerful than any substance we've been talking about here. This is what I mean, that the substances become the crutch and the substances become the limit. Now, I am aware that there is it serves until it doesn't. I smoked weed through my junior year of high school until I was about 20, until I turned 21, so probably about 4 years. But pretty much daily, I was using it quite a bit because I had a lot of pain that was not being taken care of by the support network of my family. I had to get my tonsils taken out when I was a senior in high school because of how inflamed and infected my throat was getting from the things I was not able to communicate and say. So at that point in my life, I was numbing all of these things because I didn't have the support, but I was numbing it through smoking weed. And that was my coping strategy. That was how I worked through it. That was how I made it to the other side. Well, then I went to Burning Man my first time. I did LSD my first time. The LSD was what showed me why I was using weed, what I was using it for, how it was hindering my growth, how it was stopping what was going on for me. And I listened, I heard it, and I pretty much, I can count on one hand the amount of times I maybe like drunkenly hit a spliff or got talked into smoking from that day. It was very, very clear for me. And again, like I said, I've been teaching people how to grow, how to evolve. And I can tell you that in my experience, the ones who are choosing sobriety grow and evolve much more quickly. I don't know what else to tell you about that. That is what it is. It is what it is. It's, you get to choose, right? You get to choose. It's like you can't have divine sacred union with one person and be sleeping with multiple people in a polyamorous relationship at the same time. You get to choose. But some things cannot coexist. Some things can coexist and some things cannot coexist. And I know that ayahuasca is something that has been really beautiful and a very helpful medicine teacher for many. Like I said, I've done it twice. It just simply, was not compatible for me. My personal choice in the evolution of my own healing was through Bufo. I found that to be far more understandable, far more clear. Beautiful. Yeah, and the thing about sobriety that I think is very interesting is that sobriety actually becomes a completely different high, because there's a level of clarity that happens in sobriety, especially if you're listening to like transmissions like mine, if you're listening to light codes, if you're, doing these transmissions that are awakening your Atlantean past lives, that are awakening your connection to Lemuria. If you're really actually stepping towards and in that direction, you will see that they are not compatible. You will see that there is an evolution of you being able to expand. So I'm seeing, what is Bufo? Bufo is 5-MeO-DMT. It is actually from the toad. The frog is combo. Combo is not psychedelic. Bufo is a very, very strong psychedelic. Yeah. Beautiful. It completely dissolves the ego. And so for me, with some of the sexual traumas that I experienced when I was young, that was part of the reason I had to get my tonsils taken out, right? Some things happened in my early years of high school and I couldn't talk about it. I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know that I needed to talk about it, right? So I chose to drink and smoke weed and numb and party and make it go away, pretend it didn't exist, all these things. And what ended up happening was I actually got my degree in psychology, and I went through 1.5 years of a psychic development program. And I not once did I have to bring this up. Not once was it uncovered. And I was being read at least twice a week. It was so deeply buried within me that subconsciously it was actually a mirror and a magnet attracting similar experiences with men. It was absolutely brutal, absolutely horrible. I'm 36 years old. I'm still clearing a lot. I've cleared a lot. I've come a long way. But I'd be lying if I said that some of these things still didn't come up. So for me, Bufo was the one thing that actually helped me get past the hardened ego shell that didn't even acknowledge that this happened. Didn't even acknowledge that the root cause of my own addictions and the root cause of my own problems and my own pain, and the reason I was coping, the reason I was numbing, the reason I was scapegoating, the reason I was running was because I had this absolutely horribly festering wound. Alcohol will not help you face the wound. Weed will not help you face the wound. Pharmaceuticals will not help you face the wound. This is why I am an advocate for the responsible use of psychedelics in a healing setting with proper intentions and a proper support around, because it absolutely changed my life. I don't really believe that there was going to be any other way that I could have actually started unearthing the depth of trauma that my subconscious was holding on to. So this is what I mean when I say to you, this is not my first rodeo. I'm not making this shit up about substances to try to help you clean your act up. Maybe a little bit, but I'm not making it up. Do I have a hope and dream and prayer that there are more and more conscious beings who are choosing sobriety? 100,000% I do. And do I also know that there are several different avenues and several different paths as a way to get to where you're going and where you want to go and where you want to see yourself? Yes, I do. But you are not going to see me supporting the consistent use of any of these substances without a deep sense of self-reflection and the acknowledgement of true and rigorous self-honesty that will get you there. And I can assure you as well that I have seen people abusing and misusing plant medicines as a scapegoat to doing their own personal work as well. Sobriety is like a warrior's way. But it's sobriety with internal self-reflection. It's sobriety with the internal willingness to face your trigger points, your hardened edges. Where are you not willing to expand? Where are you instead of being neutral, where you're cultivating this hard edge of either judgment or resentment or whatever it is, it's allowing yourself to find a deeper calling within you that comes through clarity. it comes through clarity. It comes through consistent clarity. When I was on my journey of mental gymnastics, of trying to stop drinking, I'll be sober 6 years in December, this time, and that's my fourth go at sobriety. I noticed that when I was clear, and when I was clear, and let's say I would go out and I'd have 4 or 5 drinks with friends, because I could never really do just one. That made no sense to me. I would go out and I'd have 4 or 5 drinks. I would notice that it would drop my frequency, it would drop my vibration, it would drop my clarity for about 5 or 6 days for me to get back to where I was before I drank. And it doesn't even matter if it's 4 or 5 drinks or if it's one. The bottom line is that alcohol lowers your frequency. You're putting a known carcinogen in your body. You're putting a known toxin in your body. You are knowingly and consciously lowering your frequency. And this is the part that most people don't knowingly, consciously are aware of, but you're also opening yourself up to spirit activity. So the spirit activity, you can find it on YouTube. I have a video. It's called Drunk Spirituality. Drunk Spirituality, search my name, it will come up. There's a really just ridiculous thumbnail on there. But I talk in depth about what I'm here to talk to you about ultimately tonight and what we're doing next week. And that's our entity clearing masterclass. So this is a 3-day event. And if you're interested, you can go ahead and type clear in the comments here. We're going to be going way deep into understanding how we open our field up to these external attachments and these external energies and these external entities. So by acknowledging and looking at the access point, again, you can type clear here in the chat if you want your invitation to join us. We're starting next week on September 10th. I already have a couple of classes uploaded into there. So when you join, you can get started right away. Some of the classes that are there, I'm already getting just exceptional reviews coming back from people. The bottom line when it comes to entities, and I'm going to way oversimplify this for all of you, and I'm going to say it simply, but it's kind of one of those things that's like easier said than done, is it has everything to do with you fully owning your personal power. It has everything to do with you getting super clear on what is a yes and what is a no. It has everything to do with you getting super clear about clearing all codependency. All codependency. And, codependency is kind of a step-by-step sort of thing. Sometimes we allow ourselves to play small and to be influenced by others who may or may not have our own highest and best in mind. They may be wanting to persuade us to do something that serves them and only them and not us, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, the bottom line is that the way that these entities come into our field, the way that they come into our consciousness is only if we let them. You are never a victim of circumstance. You are never even actually a victim of abuse. We are going to be flipping that entire script and going, okay, there's an access point. You know what that access point is? That access point is a low vibrational frequency that you are carrying around in your subconscious that becomes the point of attraction, that becomes your point of magnetism that allows this stuff to get into your field. So when it comes to this entity clearing masterclass, one is that I really do believe that the entire world needs a better education in the fact that this happens, that this exists, that we are not only living in a third dimensional world, right? I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but ultimately there's a lot more going on in this experience than what meets the eye. And if I'm being totally honest, this reality is a small portion of it. It is a small portion of it. And some people think it's the whole kit and caboodle, the whole thing. But it's not. So the Entity Clearing Masterclass is about seriously up-leveling your psychic connection, seriously up-leveling your awareness to your own psychic abilities by learning how your inner world works, learning how to discern what's your energy, what's not your energy. Clarity is also going to be one of the only things that's going to help you actually learn how to discern what is yours and what is not yours. And so I see we have a bunch of new people that just hopped on. So again, if you're interested in your invitation to join us for the Entity Clearing Masterclass, you can go ahead and type clear in the comments here. And you'll get the direct message sent to your inbox. I'm going to tell you how this all came about. So, and who here has had experiences with entities? Have you had to do, I think exorcism is a bit of a dramatic word. I call them extractions. Have you ever had to partake in an extraction? Have you ever been aware that somebody was embodying an entity that wasn't them? Have you ever looked in somebody's eyes and seen that it's not them? Have you been able to see that ever? So in June, Spirit gave me the prompt to, to lead an entity clearing masterclass. And for me, I kind of went, oh shit. Because what I know when I get these pings is that I'm about to go through a bunch of initiations to master what that is. Now, I first started clearing entities from my own field when I was about 22 years old. And actually that was the beginning of me choosing to stop drinking. Right? I've taken plenty of selfies where I'm like, those aren't my eyes. Something's going on there. I am a natural born trance medium, which means I actually do know how to leave my body and allow another being to come through, like Abraham through Esther Hicks or Bashar. That is a natural talent of mine. But the downside to that, the shadow, is that when it is unchecked or unregulated or unknown, right? I didn't know that this was a thing. Is that, and especially through my drinking and my own addictions and trying to numb and make everything go away, it was that, yeah, I had to start clearing a lot of entities very young. And not only that, I've been a part of music culture, festival culture, bar scenes for, a huge majority of my early 20s, late teens, early 20s. And, I saw it in all my friends. I've been to Al-Anon, I've been to alcohol AA, I've been to NA meetings, I've been, in support of friends and even just sometimes for myself, just checking out and being like, this isn't the thing. But so Spirit gives me the ping to lead the Entity Clearing Masterclass. I don't usually even have this conversation with people. And mind you, I've lost about 1,000 followers since I started this conversation. So I think it's very funny. How much people aren't willing to talk about it, and chances are those are probably the ones that need it most. Anyway, little aside. So I started going through some pretty significant initiations through June. I had 4 really horrible entity lessons that happened through July. And part of what a lot of it was for me was clearing codependence, clearing that feeling of being small. I did have an emotionally, verbally abusive mother growing up. Nothing was ever good enough. And so there was a lot there for me of acquiescing to just certain things, certain energies. And so through those initiations through July, and for those of you that are in my communities, you kind of had a front row seat to it being like, I'm drowning. It was so intense. So intense. But I'm so grateful to report back that I've stabilized and the lessons that I've learned are embodied, they are integrated, they will be with me through life. And I absolutely 100% know I had those experiences so that I could teach this and hold this container, because not to just teach it, but to hold a container with hundreds of people who are clearing entities simultaneously. It has really made me up my game and up what I'm capable of doing here with you as well, which is why I'm here on a Monday night 3-day weekend sharing our time together, because to me this conversation is of the utmost importance. Now, the other thing that's really interesting that I do want to share is that I was, and for those of you that are new that are hopping on, you can go ahead and type clear in the chat and you'll get the invitation to join us in that Entity Clearing Masterclass. It's power packed. It is absolutely power packed. We already have things that are uploaded, so you'll get started there now. like right away, instant access, but then simultaneously I'm going to be doing 3 live deep dive classes and also extractions. So showing you how to do it within yourself, showing you how to practice discernment, showing you how to own your field, own your body, and simultaneously offering support and healing, because sometimes we do need someone to catch our blind spot, especially with this particular arena. So when I got this ping, and I met Spirit with so much resistance. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I don't really want to do this. Like, the entity conversation is not so much fun. There's a lot of darkness. There's a lot of distortions. There's a lot of weird shit that starts happening. I'm like, I don't really want to, And the other thing, as I was trying to negotiate, they were like, I said, look, like usually I don't have this conversation with people until they've been in my advanced level psychic development for at least minimum 6 months, minimum. And that is so that you have the capabilities and an understanding of how to just even discern, is this my energy? Is this not my energy? Is this my energy? Is this not my energy? Am I in my body? Is there anything else in my body? Are there other things I need to know? There's a lot of different things that I really believe is very important to focus on when we're doing this. And you know what Spirit hit me back with? My jaw dropped with this. They said it doesn't matter. People are already being bombarded with this energy, and they need to know how to get rid of it immediately. It blew my mind, and it was kind of like a reality check. It was a reality check around what's going on in this world right now, and how many distortions and how much manipulation and how much weird shit is going on, that people don't even want to look in the mirror and take responsibility for their own healing. They'd rather turn it around and say, it's your fault I'm this way. It's not. It's not. We have to choose to take the responsibility within ourselves to say, I will not take this anymore. I will not tolerate this anymore. I am choosing to change my path. I am choosing to change my daily experience. I am choosing to up-level my life. I am choosing to shift and change my stars. When you put the power back in your hands, which is everything that I am really trying to do here, you don't need to put your power into the hands of weed and say, this is where my creativity is. No, it's not. Your creativity is within you. You just haven't learned how to yet open it for yourself without that. Just to use that as an example, right? Your power is in your hands. Your power is in your heart. If your heart is bogged down with an extraordinary amount of pain, as I have shared with you, mine has been. I've had to do an extraordinary amount of healing to have this conversation with you. I would not have been able to have this conversation with you 5 years ago. Maybe 5 years ago, but not 10 years ago. Not, it's like there's a lot that needs to take place within our own hearts to set our own hearts free. And the irony of it is that most people don't want to take full responsibility for themselves. But when you take full responsibility for yourself, you put the power back in your hands. And what are we most afraid of? Not our deepest darkness. You already know your deepest darkness. You've already experienced your deepest darkness. You've already had your most earth-shattering trauma experience. You already have. I promise you that's not what you're afraid of. The fear comes from acknowledging that we have the power in our hands to change our lives and to co-create our world. When we acknowledge that that's what it is, we start looking around and go, wait, I'm responsible for the shitstorms that are happening? Yes. Yes. It's called your point of attraction. Nobody is exempt from law of attraction. And the law of attraction, here's the key and most important part of the Entity Clearing Masterclass. And for those of you who are just hopping on, you can go ahead and type clear in the comments here and you'll get your invitation to join. But it's like this. An entity is only able to plug into you at a low frequency that you have stored in your unconscious mind, meaning there's a frequency, a wound, a trauma point that is just basically like sitting in your subconscious. It's a frequency. It's a point of attraction. Well, this frequency point of attraction basically starts magnetizing. Then let's say you have an argument with your partner, or something happens, and you decide that you're just going to say fuck it and go out and drink 10 Cosmos. I don't know, whatever you drink. And next thing you know, you've opened yourself through alcohol, spirits. It's not called that for no reason. You choose to open yourself and you open that point of attraction. Well, now you've allowed a spirit to come in and basically cohabitate in your body. Sometimes it'll stay for that night and go away, and sometimes it'll stay for that night and stay. Now, more often than not, those of us who've experienced some big T trauma experiences before the age of 14 actually have a very, very deeply stored trauma point. And that very deeply stored trauma point becomes that access. That becomes the point where these entities or these external consciousness plug into us. Now, here's the other interesting thing, is that in my work of creating or clearing these entities, what I have also learned is that not all of these entities are external. Sometimes it is actually a projection of consciousness of the wound itself. So the projection of the consciousness of the wound itself is actually that the wound is trying to get attention. It is trying to step forward and get the attention of you. To say, hey, there's something here that needs to be acknowledged. There's something here that is ready to be healed. There's something here. So if you have a wound in your subconscious that is just festering, and it gets infected and it starts getting inflamed and it starts lashing out at people and it starts attracting similar terrible experiences. And these things just start creating a magnetic field, a point of attraction for those things that you actually don't want to happen. So what we're doing in the Entity Clearing Masterclass is that we're actually finding that lowest point of vibrational frequency that you have in the entire composition of your soul. And let me be clear on this. Your soul does not need healing. Your soul is created in the image and likeness of the Creator itself. So what we're doing here is we are clearing the pain points, the trauma walls, these different layers that we put up that keep us from being able to actually experience the truth of our inner divinity. And so whatever it is that you are carrying in your field, past, present, future, that you are ready to release, that's what we're talking about in the Entity Clearing Masterclass. Yes, it is about entities. Yes, it is about understanding the external world, because when we start getting into the fifth dimension, it's not just all rainbows and butterflies. There's a lot of weird stuff in the fifth dimension as well, so that's why we need to use discernment when we activate our mediumship abilities. It's very, very important to do so. Very, very important. So when we're activating and we're understanding that we live in a multidimensional field, and a lot of what we experience in this world is happening in the invisible realm, invisible to these eyes, but visible to your third eye. So we're activating clairvoyance, we're activating your clear point of attraction, we're activating your cleared mirrored point of attraction, and we're activating radical self-honesty. And that activation of radical self-honesty is when you give yourself the permission to have the courage to look your deepest, darkest, ickiest point in the face and say, I love you unconditionally. Every single part of your experience and every single part of your existence is lovable. And I'm here to love you. And I'm here to love you through this. And I'm here to love you and through the transmutation of whatever it is that you are carrying. So then what happens is your entire point of attraction goes from this lowest vibrational point to start raising, start increasing. Now can you hear what I'm saying when I say how important clarity is and choosing sobriety is? Is it landing? Can you hear me? There's so much here for us. And for those of you that have been here since the beginning of the call, I just want to say thank you so much for your presence. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and close out with a light prayer. I'm going to share some light codes to really wrap up and integrate what we've been talking about, because this was actually a very, very deep call. I wasn't sure, I wasn't anticipating that we were going to go this deep, but here we are, and I'm really, really proud of all of us. So thank you for holding that field with me. Thank you for holding the field of the ripple effect for those closest to you as well, knowing that this conversation is going to plant some seeds that is going to continue to multiply and activate as you move forward in so many beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ways. All right. And then again, for those of you that are interested in joining the Entity Clearing Masterclass, you can go ahead and type clear here in the comments. Can someone confirm for me also that that keyword is working? It's either clear or clarity. Those are the two words I chose to do for this one. Beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a nice big deep breath. Connecting your root chakra all the way down to the center of the planet. I can tell this conversation has triggered quite a few people. I have the gift of feeling the collective pulse, which is what I believe is part of the superpower that I have in leading transmissions for large groups, and have most people say, I felt like you were speaking directly to me. And simultaneously, when I have these conversations, especially on a public forum like Instagram, knowing that a lot of these conversations are poking on addiction points and all sorts of other stuff, I know this conversation was quite triggering for many who popped in and popped out. So I do just want to send a prayer of light and illumination and connection, brilliance, and the purity of love and compassion to where each and every single person is on their journey. My journey to sobriety took me years. And so as we call in divine truth and love into this sacred space, we invoke the highest possible healing for each and every viewer, replayer, and myself. We ask for the courage and compassion to speak and to hear from the purest form of self-love and forgiveness to all involved. Ia si o truana haaya wa unua ia pun kia si atria. Ia wa ho unu kua pu kutrunua si atria ia nia ia wa ho unu wa pua kia si atri. Ia tri on yo wa ho okunuka tria ia wa unua uapu ukunuka isitria ia on yo wa uana uakaya. So there's a prayer coming through ending agreements with any attachments that you have in your field right now that you can clear now. While we're here, let's go ahead and do the work. So clearing and ending agreements, contracts, activating a pure sense of autonomy. One soul, your soul, stood in line for who knows how long to get into this body. You do not need to share it with any other energies, souls, spirits, consciousness. Go ahead and activate your pure autonomy in your own body in this present moment. Yo siatrai, clearing and ending all agreements. Siatria, wahonukuapu, sutruana, taking your power back fully and completely. Sutruana wahakatria niawa uahukunuku. Siatria yawa unua uahukunuku satria. Yo siatria hionyua munakai. Iatria yonyo puaka sitri. Yukuamona zayatria munaka. Siotria, huaya poco tronua, io satria, ianya, iawaha ukunupu, kukunuku, yasya. So there's also a prayer of purification and cleansing that's coming through. It's almost like, so I'm seeing this image of like being in a temple space, but getting hit with water balloons full of mud. And it's just like, there's so much stuff going on in the collective right now. So there's also the reminder to stay above it. If there's a layer, frequency layer where the chaos is happening, give yourself full permission to rise above it. You're not being selfish. You're not being an a-hole. You're actually helping to pioneer the frequency of what's possible. So allowing yourself to continue to emanate at a higher vibrational access point. It actually gives other people permission to do the same rather than all wallowing in the same fear, panic mode. Just to oversimplify, giving yourself permission to rise above this. Ia wa nia ia wa sutrun wa shio okwana ia wa muna ku pukutrua ya siatria wa okonwa ia ho sutru. Beautiful. Again, I want to remind you that you're all invited to join us in the Entity Clearing Masterclass. You can go ahead and type clear in the comments below here. That's going to give you the opportunity to go even deeper with us in this way, to really be well on your way of mastering how to work with energy in this way, how to activate your clear divine sovereignty, how to really touch in on what is most important to your heart's deepest truth, and allowing all of that to be here in a space that, again, activates your truest sovereignty. All right, my dear sweet loves, please feel free to share this with anyone that you think would benefit. And again, all of your appreciation and playing the algorithm game with me really, really helps. So liking, sharing, commenting. I don't know what happened, but recently my account was taken down for about a day. And since I've come back, my engagement has been really low. And I don't want to put power in the algorithm shenanigans. But I really, really appreciate you going to my page and liking and commenting, even if it's just emojis. As you know, any type of engagement really helps to, boost our pages here. And as I've been talking about the Entity Clearing Masterclass, more people have unfollowed than have followed, which I'm not surprised by this at all. I know that will turn around and it's all going to be gravy and fine again. But, it's not our favorite topic of conversation, but if I'm being really honest, I think it might be the most important one. So your support in helping me, get the word out is deeply and graciously appreciated. So with that, my sweet loves, as we go forth, may we integrate the healing and the lessons received with courage, self-love, and compassion. Our session here today is very much in love and very much complete. I do hope to see you in that masterclass soon. Sending so much love. Ciao, ciao. And we want to share a big, generous thank you to our listeners who decide to become Monad Society members. This supports this podcast so we can stay true to our heart-centered vision of freedom in topic and expression. We are happy to welcome new members into Align, our community that meets twice monthly for deep dive transmissions, Build, our quantum business development for intuitive entrepreneurs from $0 to $10,000 a month, and Rise, our advanced level psychic development and scale your business course for high-level founders and CEOs by application only. I'm grateful that Monad itself is a sponsor for this powerful and free offering. So please know your invitation to join our movement is here and now. Please click the link in the description below, monadsociety.com/Sitara Speaks, to see what offering resonates with your higher calling. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Beyond the Physical. I hope you found our discussion enlightening and inspiring. Remember that this is an ongoing journey and I'm here to support you every step of the way. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to hear more, I encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss on any of our future episodes. Connect with me on social at sitara.speaks for more insights and updates. Until next time, stay connected to your inner wisdom and keep shining your light.